Years of aggression, physical violence, humiliation, manipulation, and even sexual abuse. On September 28, 2024, the Dutch newspaper De Volkskrant published a shocking article about Wim Hof, the man the world knows as the eccentric Iceman. Hof became famous for breaking cold-related world records and developing the Wim Hof Method, a technique he claims helps people control their nervous and immune systems, making them more resistant to the cold. But behind the scenes, a darker story was unfolding. While Wim Hof was rising to fame as one of the world's top health gurus, his family was suffering in silence. They endured years of both physical and mental aggression. Now, as a movie about Wim Hof's life is being made, his ex-partner, their son, and her other children are speaking out, revealing the painful reality they lived with. The man who became a symbol of strength and resilience has a complex past that's only now coming to light. Caroline, Wim Hof's ex-wife, was shocked and terrified when she received a letter from a British film producer in August 2023. The letter revealed plans for a movie about the life of Wim Hof, in which Caroline played a significant role. This news hit her hard, especially as she had just started trauma therapy to deal with the years of abuse she endured from Wim. Her children, including their son Noah, were also deeply disturbed. Noah, who suffers from PTSD due to his father's actions, wants nothing to do with Wim, especially not through a movie that will likely gain global attention. Meanwhile, Wim Hof, now a wealthy and famous health guru, is known worldwide for his cold water training and breathing exercises, attracting stars like Oprah and Jim Carrey, and presenting himself as a teacher of love and inner peace. For Caroline and her children, it's painful to see Wim Hof, the man responsible for years of abuse, now celebrated by so many. The news of the movie, which will likely boost his heroic image, was the final straw. In consultation with her children, Caroline decided to go public with their story through De Volkskrant. Their accounts, backed by court rulings, medical records and reports from child welfare, reveal a dark side of the famous health guru. Documents show that Hof's rising fame fueled his aggression, with him becoming increasingly convinced of his own genius and intolerant of any criticism. His growing popularity made it harder for Caroline and her children to speak out, as few would believe such a beloved figure could be capable of such violence. Now, they share their story, hoping to break free from the myth Hof has created around himself. Noah, Hof's son, explains that they want to go their own way and no longer be part of this lie. Caroline met Wim Hof in the late 1990s, drawn to his adventurous and hippie-like personality. After learning about the tragic suicide of his first wife, she felt sympathy for him, and eventually, they began a relationship in 2001. Hof moved into Caroline's home with her and her children, but tensions quickly escalated. His own children, struggling with the new family dynamic, left after a few months. Hof's behavior became more erratic and aggressive over time. He neglected his own children, expressed a cold attitude in letters, and distanced himself emotionally. Caroline recalls how he manipulated her by comparing his children to their late mother, painting her as dark and unhealthy, while praising Caroline as the light and the future. Caroline didn't intend to get pregnant, but in early 2002 she did. This change seemed to trigger even more aggression in Hof, who began to assert more control over her. She felt trapped, knowing he wanted a child, and felt powerless as his behavior worsened during her pregnancy. The first instance of severe physical violence that Caroline recalls occurred when she was a few months pregnant. According to her police report, Wim Hof, in a fit of rage, slapped her, dragged her by her hair, and attempted to kick her in the stomach. She narrowly avoided the full impact by hiding behind a couch. Hof denies this specific event, but admits to having disagreements, claiming Caroline knew how to provoke him. A few days later, Hof returned in tears, blaming his outburst on the pain of his children leaving, and manipulated Caroline into believing she was partly responsible for both their departure and his violence. Despite the abuse, she let him back into her life. 6 months later, in November 2002, their son Noah was born. In early 2003, Caroline was taken to the A&E after being assaulted. Medical records note that her elbow was injured by a cast iron pan, with the doctor documenting abused by husband. Wim Hof downplays the incident, denying that he is violent. However, various documents reveal that the violence only escalated in the years that followed. Caroline's children were also subjected to Hof's aggression. Christiane reported being kicked and pushed, while Natalie described being elbowed in the face, causing her tongue to bleed, and having hot coffee thrown on her. Hof denies these claims, but Caroline and the children say his aggression often increased with alcohol, with Christiane testifying that Hof drank 6 half-liters of beer daily. In a 2022 interview, Hof admitted to drinking during that time, but blamed it on Caroline. A neighbour corroborated the family's experiences, recalling frequent encounters with a drunken Hof and disturbances from the apartment, describing sounds of heavy furniture being thrown around. Wim Hof faces additional accusations of domestic violence, including from his oldest brother, Rob, who filed a report with the Utrecht Prosecution Office. Rob accuses Hof of being responsible for the drowning deaths of at least 13 people who practiced the Wim Hof Method, alleging that Wim failed to adequately warn them of the dangers. Hof has consistently maintained that he warns people not to do his breathing exercises in water. Rob also claims that Hof abused his first wife, ller, throughout their marriage up until her death in 1995. He alleges that Hof neglected her and their children, sometimes leaving them without food or adequate clothing, while he pursued dangerous stunts. Rob further claims that Hof would beat ller and at times lock her in a kitchen cupboard. The circumstances surrounding Oller's death are suspicious. In 1998, Wim Hof said in Volkskrant that his first wife had died in a run-of-the-mill car crash. In 2022, Hof stated in an interview that she had jumped from an apartment building 8 stories down. So he's lying about this. Very shocking, don't you think? This makes you wonder if he had something to do with it. In 2006, Caroline also feared for her life during one of Wim Hof's violent outbursts. She had learned methods to calm him down, like offering him a beer or suggesting they go to bed, but this time nothing worked. Hof grabbed her by the throat, nearly choking her to death. According to Caroline, he only let go because their son Noah was nearby. This incident is confirmed in a report from Child Welfare. Hof, however, denies the event ever took place. Caroline's therapist at the time, Kees van Dijk, recalls her coming to him shortly after the incident with visible marks on her neck. He urged her to report Hof to the police and leave him, but Caroline was too terrified to take action. Caroline often questioned why she didn't just leave Wim Hof. The main reason was fear. She was terrified that if she ended things permanently, he would harm her or her children. Despite the abuse, there were moments of hope when Hof would praise her, calling her a queen and writing beautiful poems. These rare moments of affection made her hold on, and each violent outburst was followed by reconciliation, trapping her in a cycle of fear and hope year after year. Caroline's children, like her, had to live according to Wim Hof's unpredictable moods. Noah recalls how even his 6th birthday became about his father. Despite having a broken leg, his dad insisted on flying kites at the park, leaving Noah sidelined on his special day. This experience, along with others, made Noah feel insignificant, teaching him early on that his needs didn't matter. In 2015, at just 13, Noah told Child Welfare how his father disapproved of him taking ballet, deeming it for gays. The report reveals that Noah cried during the interview, expressing his deep fear of his father. From a young age, Noah tried to be a good boy to avoid provoking his father's violent outbursts. Wim Hof's verbal abuse was a daily occurrence for Caroline and her children. Natalie recalls how Hof constantly criticized her eating habits, calling her a fat pig. Caroline was labeled a whore for speaking to other men, with Hof even emailing her vile insults like dirty bitch whore. Hof dismissed these accusations, claiming that insults happen in all relationships, and he didn't remember these specific instances. Noah also endured humiliating comments, with Hof telling him that his real father was Hof's brother. Child Welfare documented these degrading remarks in their report. As Hof's fame grew, so did his delusions of grandeur. He often referred to his family as mediocre people and told Caroline after she developed diabetes, "You deserve this. You are Mrs. Diabetes, and I am the Iceman." Caroline also found herself forced to care for Hof when he returned from his record-breaking stunts, often injured. Despite the abuse, Hof's growing celebrity made it difficult for Caroline and the children to speak out. When Caroline tried to share their struggles, others brushed it off, calling him eccentric, further isolating the family. In 2010, Natalie, then 16, had reached her limit with Wim Hof's aggression. After being called a pig again, she decided to leave, telling her mother she wouldn't return until Hof was out of the house. Caroline agreed, and it was settled that Hof would leave during their upcoming holiday. However, when they returned, Hof was still there and continued living with them, despite repeated promises to leave. On May 8, 2010, things escalated. Hof began drinking and became increasingly hostile. According to Noah, Hof pulled him up by his legs while yelling at Caroline. Later that night, Hof threatened Caroline, pressing a plate against her head and warning that he could cause severe ear and eye damage. Fearing for her safety, Caroline called her eldest son, Christian, for help. When Christian arrived, Hof immediately became violent, shouting threats and making karate moves. The confrontation turned physical, with Hof punching Christian in the stomach, prompting Christian to hit back in self-defense. During the fight, Christian got a nosebleed and a black eye. Caroline managed to call the police just as Hof was about to throw a large glass bowl at Christian. The police arrived and arrested Hof. In later interviews, Hof downplayed the incident, calling it grappling rather than hitting, although he admitted in 2015 that he may have struck Christian. After the violent altercation in 2010, Christian filed a report against Wim Hof, with Natalie providing a witness statement. Caroline also filed a detailed report outlining years of abuse. As a result, the mayor of Amsterdam issued a 2-week restraining order against Hof, which was later extended. However, Hof did not leave them in peace. Caroline received intimidating phone calls, some of which were reported to the police. According to police reports seen by Volkskrant, in one instance, Hof allegedly threatened to kill Caroline and the children if they didn't withdraw their complaints, though Hof denies this. Hof also sent numerous abusive emails, calling Caroline and her children dirty bastards and monstrous assholes. He even blamed her for his violent behavior, writing in one email, "Death threats, that's what you have caused." He continued to boast about himself, claiming he might win the Nobel Prize. In late 2010, Hof's tone shifted in letters to Christian and Natalie, where he partially acknowledged his violence. He expressed regret for his idiotic outbursts and admitted he was an asshole who lost control due to inattentions. Hof claims he was trying to show remorse in an effort to improve the separation situation, though his abusive behavior had already inflicted deep emotional damage on the family. On April 18, 2011, Wim Hof appeared before the magistrate's court for the assault on Christian. Hof didn't deny the incident, but defended himself by claiming he had been treated disrespectfully by the family for years. He expressed frustration, stating, "I was the one who brought home the bacon, but I was not allowed to exert any authority." Hof was embarrassed by the court proceedings, saying, "This is not me, I am the Iceman. I climb the Himalayas in shorts. I swim in ice water. This whole court case, I find it humiliating." However, the magistrate was unmoved. He pointed out Hof's personal struggles, even referencing a bizarre incident where Hof injured himself by attempting to give himself an enema with a fountain in Amsterdam's Vondelpark in 2008. The magistrate suggested that Hof's extreme feats may be an escape from the problems in his personal life. Hof was sentenced to 40 hours of community service and a €350 fine. The police report Caroline filed detailing years of domestic violence did not result in a court case, leaving her confused and disheartened. Despite filing the report, her lawyer never received a dismissal confirmation, which is usually customary. This lack of follow-up severely impacted Caroline's trust in the justice system. She recalls how a female police officer had commented on the severity of the case, leading her to believe that Wim Hof would face serious consequences. However, after hearing nothing further, Caroline was left feeling unsafe and unsupported. Recently, following inquiries from Volkskrant, the prosecution office contacted Caroline and apologized for the lack of communication regarding her case. Despite the apology, the prosecutor confirmed that the case was re-evaluated and ultimately dismissed due to lack of evidence. This outcome only deepened Caroline's frustration with the legal process. After Wim Hof's conviction, his aggression shifted. During his visits with Noah, he verbally abused Caroline and her older children, as noted by Child Welfare. Hof also allegedly coerced Caroline into sex by threatening to withhold child support or take Noah away. Caroline later recognized this as rape, driven by his constant threats. Noah witnessed some of these acts. In 2011, a child neurologist linked Noah's cluster headaches to the stress at home, and social workers described him as traumatized. Child welfare records noted Hof's megalomania, such as demanding Noah skip ballet to watch him walk barefoot on ice. When Noah refused, Hof reacted angrily. Hof still believes Noah's refusal was shameless. Noah's final contact with his father was in July 2013. Hof later sought court permission for regular visits, but Noah, feeling unsafe, sent a letter to the court expressing his fear. In 2015, the court denied Hof's request for access and dismissed his claim that he couldn't afford more than €25 in child support, as his income was soaring. By then, the Wim Hof Method had become a global success, with high-profile endorsements and lucrative speaking engagements. Even after 11 years without contact, Noah still struggles with the trauma his father, Wim Hof, inflicted during his childhood. He shares that Hof made him feel as though he shouldn't exist, making it hard for him to open up to others. Noah also suffers from severe chest pain caused by stress and fear, which has affected his dancing career with the Bayerische Staatsballett. In 2021, he was diagnosed with PTSD after seeking therapy. Hof, however, dismisses his son's suffering, blaming it on what he calls their own insensitive intentions. He criticizes Noah, his mother, and siblings for lacking respect for his achievements, suggesting they need introspection. Natalie still struggles with body image issues due to Hof's constant criticisms of her weight, and Caroline remains hyper-alert in everyday life, always aware of her surroundings and feeling unsafe in silence or darkness. All three children, along with Caroline, are undergoing trauma therapy to heal from the years of abuse. Caroline and her children find it impossible to escape Wim Hof's presence. Whether it's through media, social platforms, or people around them praising cold showers, he's always there. Their pain resurfaced during a 2023 American court case involving the drowning of a 17-year-old, allegedly after doing Hof's breathing exercises. Hof denied any court involvement, but a Los Angeles court ultimately ruled him and his company not liable for the death. Caroline and her children are also concerned about the upcoming movie, The Iceman, fearing it will portray Hof as a victim, glossing over the domestic violence they endured. Although the production company claims the movie won't feature characters based on Caroline and her children, they remain unconvinced. The constant misinformation surrounding Hof's public persona is what pushed them to share their story now. Noah, ashamed and exhausted by the false image of his father, feels it's time people understood that he is not who they think he is. So, this was the shocking story behind Wim Hof, known globally as the Iceman and a health guru, but whose personal life reveals a much darker side. What do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime videos.